Hello everyone, this is Ziki here and I hope you're all doing very well. I know it's been a minute since I showed my face here, but I am here now. Sanctions. There is no way we can talk about Zimbabwe, about the situation in Zimbabwe. We can talk about Zimbabweans in the diaspora, Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe, without it ending up with the word sanctions. Recently, we also saw the issue of the gold mafia, money laundering, gold smuggling, and again, we saw those experts, you should say, saying, well, it's all because of sanctions. We are trying to maneuver, we are trying to, to go about the country to raise some money because the country has been restricted because of sanctions. And we know again, every year in October, the SADC has been calling for the unconditional removal of sanctions, saying, well, they are illegal. They shouldn't even be there. Anyway, so along that, there are also some other organizations that come in to say, well, sanctions must be removed. Of course, we know there are also another side that will say, well, sanctions have got nothing to do with what is happening in Zimbabwe. That is a debate for another day. Now, there is one organization here which is called the Anti-Sanctions Movement, or ZASM. Okay. If you remember, they were in the news sometime last year in March when they filed to the High Court of South Africa in Johannesburg saying that, well, they were, putting a case against the United States, including, United States banks, including the United States president, over the imposition of sanctions on Zimbabwe. Well, it took over a year for the reply to come. Now there is again the part of South African international relations that used its whatever way they did for this case to reach USA. And now the United States of America Embassy in South Africa issued a statement, and in this statement they're saying, well, you are dreaming. You are dreaming. South African court, that is the Johannesburg High Court, he has no jurisdiction over all this. Okay, they say the United States of America Embassy in Pretoria issued a diplomatic note to South Africa claiming the Johannesburg High Court lacks jurisdiction over the U.S. in the case brought a year ago by the Zimbabwe Anti-Sanctions Movement, seeking to have sanctions against Zimbabwe declared unlawful, unconstitutional, and invalid. They say the President of the United States has got absolute immunity. And I'm going to read part of the note. It said, to the extent that the court purports to summon President of the United States of America, the U.S. Embassy wishes to remind the department, pursuant to customary international law, the President of the United States of America is the head of state, and the head of state for the United States of America, and therefore he enjoys absolute immunity from criminal and civil jurisdiction of the Republic of South Africa. Okay. The note again went on to say, consistent with customary international law of the South African, the embassy notes that the United States of America intends to extend necessary to claim immunity in this matter because the court does not have jurisdiction to adjudicate the issue raised. Okay. Now, this is what the United States of America responded pertaining to this case that was put before the Johannesburg High Court, saying, well, the President of America and other, relevant people and organizations who impose the sanctions on Zimbabwe, should answer to this and say, well, the sanctions are illegal, unconstitutional, and should be, rendered invalid. But we all know that thing, we saw that last year in 2022, towards the end of 2022, the United States reviewed these sanctions, but in the way they were reviewing it, they removed about 17 personalities and added more on it. Okay, and again, we saw different kinds of news, coming out to say, well, they're saying until Zimbabwe adheres to the reforms and everything, that is not going to happen. But also, I might want you to take this. During a press conference by ZANU-PF, they said, well, the United States, officials had visited, the Zimbabwean officials, and they spoken, and they said, well, in this upcoming 2023 elections, United States was going to take a neutral position, saying, well, they will respect the outcomes of the elections. I don't know about that. Okay, I don't know about that. And also, speaking of which, when we're talking about the upcoming elections, we already know about, the European Union, okay, and the Commonwealth. All right, when it comes to the Commonwealth, they came to Zimbabwe, to assess and also to give the feedback of, you remember, Zimbabwe wants to rejoin the Commonwealth, okay, but again, in the 2018 elections, Zimbabwe invited the Commonwealth to come and observe the elections. They did. Of course, they said, well, there were some positive aspects that came out of their observations, but they were saying, well, there's still more that needs to be done, especially when it comes to media coverage and, some other issues like, the rallies, okay, money, the financing of political parties and all those kind of stuff. Those are some of the issues that they raised. And we also saw the European Union, well, they also sent their own group, and the group was again in Zimbabwe. I think sometime in May, they also came to Zimbabwe again, with the issues of, of elections to be free and fair, saying, well, they are watching. And then there's the issue of the PVO, the private volunteer organizations. Remember, there is a bill that was passed by the Senate, but the president was supposed to sign it. He has not yet signed the bill, but President Mnangagwa said, well, he was going to sign the bill as soon as it is labeled on his table. Okay, and this bill is saying, well, it is restricting and actually closing some other PVO. For the president said, well, interference with what is happening in Zimbabwe. They said they are coming in the guise of being charitable organizations, helping the communities and everything, and yet they're doing some other things outside of what they're supposed to operate in. And then we saw the European Union coming out and say, well, this bill, if it is signed, is going to cause a lot of problems because it's going to restrict organizations that want to work to serve the communities. And they also said that, well, in the event that the upcoming elections, they are not free and fair, they are disputed, and having this bill signed, we are going just to blame it on that. They were saying, why sign such a bill just months before the elections? So guys, there's a lot that is happening. Okay, there's a lot that is happening in this upcoming, but don't worry, Ziki is going to be following up on all the stories. So everything that I've told you right now, those are just the highlights of many things that are happening. But of course, upcoming elections, they are here. ZANU-PF have recently finished its primary elections. We saw young faces coming in, very, very young people coming in, replacing some old faces, some old people, okay, that have been there, for a long time representing ZANU-PF. But this time around, we saw new faces, fresh and young. I don't know the implications of that. My name is Ziki, and until I come back again with more stories, please subscribe and stay. And hey, thank you so much for your continued love and support. We are growing, and it's all for our own good. Until then, take care.